Okay, in the previous video on the basics for the BK100 series, we assembled the basic components on here, and now we're going to customize this to become the BK100 Lighthouse flasher. So to do that, we'll have to add several components to this circuit board and the chip that drives it. We'll have to add a 20 ohm resistor, a 3mm white LED, the chip with the program in it to run the Lighthouse flasher, the red and black power leads, and we'll have to put leads onto the LED so that we can solder it in, and then when we complete it, we'll use some shrink tubing to put over the leads so it doesn't short out when you're using it. So the first step will be to strip off the insulation off of the wires we're going to use for both the LED and the power wires to connect this. So we'll do those two for the LED, and then we'll use red and black for the power wires. The colors of the wires really don't matter as long as you keep track of which one is plus and which one is minus. On the input of the actual kit for power, it makes no difference, but it does make a difference on the LED. Now on an LED, there are two leads the way it comes, and one is longer than the other. The longer lead is always plus. So you need to keep track of which one is the longer lead when you solder it on, and I normally solder the yellow lead to the plus side and the green lead to the minus side. And the way I do it is I use that piece of perf board that I showed you in the previous video, and one of these little clamps, and I clamp it to there with the longer lead on the right side and the negative lead on the left side. And we'll see if we can put this together. This is a little tricky to do in front of the camera, but I'll do is, this is where these clips come in handy, and so what I have is that leads onto there, and then I can solder that one on there, and then we'll solder the other one afterwards. Okay, so now I'm going to solder this lead on here. Just put the soldering iron in there and melt a little bit there, move it along a little bit so it makes a nice clean solder joint. And then we'll take the green lead to put it on the other side. I'll do it with my finger. Put the clip on there. Looks like it's nice and tight. Grab a little bit of solder here and solder that right on. Looks good. And then we'll take a little bit of shrink tubing. We'll disconnect that. Disconnect the LED. And I'm going to just slide a little shrink tubing over each lead. I'll need a little patience to get the small shrink tubing over the thing there. I think we have it now. I'll slide this up, and you can You know, some people will use a heat gun, but I find it easier just to use the tip of the soldering gun and just sort of rub it along the side, shrink the tube. So that now we have insulation on the wires on the leads, and that should be pretty good. And that gives you, let's see if I can get this in there. You can see that. See how that shrunk around there, and then we have a 3mm LED. The yellow is on the plus side, the green is on the minus side. So now I've taken the 20 ohm resistor that comes with the kit, and I've put it into the R4 position for the output, and I'm just going to turn it over, clip it up, and then we're going to solder this in place. Always clean up your tip of your soldering iron before you go to do this, and it works so much better. Make sure you make a nice joint, nice easy joint there, and that should be fine. And making sure you have safety glasses on before you clip anything off, because sometimes these little pieces fly when you clip it off. And there now we've got that soldered pretty good, and the resistors in place. Next step is to put the LED wires in. The yellow goes into the plus side. If you can see, the plus is towards the resistor, and the green is in the ground, which is on the outside row of little holes there. All of the rows on the outside are all ground. The other ones are attached to the individual outputs of the chip. So we'll just turn this over and we'll solder those two into place. Using our handy dandy little jig that we made, these little clips just work so well for this. That one's a little bit, that one needs to come back a little bit. I'll take care of the yellow wire first, and then we'll come back and do the other one. I had that one sticking through a little bit too much, so we're just going to pull that back a little. And then we'll just solder that in place. Again, these little pieces can fly, so move them off, and there, that's now in place. And we're going to turn it around, and we're going to put the red and black power wires in. And because we have that diode bridge, it doesn't matter which wire goes where, but I typically like to be consistent and put the red wire on the left hole, the other one there, and so now we just solder those in place. A little tricky trying to work underneath the camera, but we get it. Trim off the excess. And now everything's assembled with the exception of we have to put the chip in. So I take the chip. Alright, if I can hold this in the right direction. And the chip, there's a notch on the chip that matches the notch in the socket and the notch on the board. You have to put the chip in the socket as such. Try and make sure that you don't have any static electricity on your body when you're doing this, because the static could hurt the chip. Alright, I'm just going to curl these wires around so it's a little bit easier to see. I leave these wires long for people that are going to set it up, and pretty much we're all set up there now, and we're going to just go into the next. We're going to do a test of it. Okay, with the power lights are on, the LED is on, we are fully assembled, the chip's in place. Now all we have to do is test it. So I have a 12-volt power supply with little clips, and I'll put the red power lead to the plus, and you can see it's functioning now as a lighthouse flasher, whereas it slowly ramps up, flashes, then goes dull, and then repeats the process. Now to change the process, to change the timing on it, you push the little button and it flashes, and then it changes the time, goes a little bit longer time. So that's up to the user. They can adjust it whatever they want. Now to show you that the diode bridge works, we'll just disconnect this, and we'll put the 12-volt power, reverse the leads, and it works exactly the same, because the diode bridge is giving you doesn't matter which side you put the 12-volt input in, or the 12-volt AC or DCC, it'll still works the same. So alright, so that's pretty much it. Once it gets assembled, then you can put it into your scene or your lighthouse scene, whatever you're going to do with it. But this is the basic assembly of the BK100 Lighthouse Flasher. Thanks for watching.